I'm just going to check that my phone is happy to record as well. Welcome to, let me just move that over there. Hello, sorry about that. Welcome to my autumn equinox art journaling session. I'm Becca and I'm an artist based in Suffolk in the UK. So I know we're sort of a little bit overdue. We're sort of overlapping. It's the day after the sort of official autumn equinox here in the UK. And but I just thought it'd be a really lovely thing to have a day, have an hour or so to come into our art journaling, come into our sketchbooks, or if you haven't got a sketchbook, just a piece of paper or bit of cardboard, anything that you can paint on, that you're happy to paint on. And we're just going to sort of think about the equinox and maybe set some intentions for this changing of the season, and kind of come inwards and think about yourself. And we're going to paint it out. And I did this so you can make your own little card if you want. So you could do it as an affirmation card. I'm going to do it in my sketchbook. I've sort of cheated a little bit because I might have started a bit. But I just wanted to give you really a sort of taster of what I do. And because I'm going to be starting a series of workshops starting next Monday evening in the UK on Zoom, which is going to be based on chakras and making chakra mandalas. So I just wanted to give you a little flavour of what to expect. But we're going to concentrate on the equinox today and set some intentions and maybe kind of come up with your own affirmation. Or I have got some little ideas for you as well. So the autumn equinox is really about preparing us for this sort of change in the Earth's energy. We are moving from the summer into the autumn, and where the summer's maybe just been, we felt a bit scattered. It's that kind of, just that freedom, that lovely kind of outside, we're outside and we're sort of just feels freer, doesn't it? And now kind of coming into the autumn, it'll be about having kind of thinking inwards, gathering whether it's like fruit or vegetables from the garden that needs to come in, or just gathering our emotions and our thoughts and practicalities, things that may have kind of lost their way in the summer, and then we've got to face them, but face them in a positive light. A lot of ebbing and flowing, yin and yang. Okay, dark and light. And we are going into the darker months. The days are going to be shorter, and about really embracing that and just hunkering down and recharging and all of that. So I'm going to sort of invite you to think this out on whether you're doing an affirmation card or doing it in a sketchbook. Okay. So I'm going to invite you first, before you gather your art supplies, to just have a little kind of close your eyes. We're going to have a meditation, and maybe from this meditation, maybe take some words that I use or visualizations. You can use those as sort of symbolism that you might want to bring into your page. Okay. Have a think, have a feel in as well, but think about what sort of intentions you might want to create for yourself going forward, what you want to leave behind, what needs to be released, that kind of thing. Okay. And breath, just sort of release that out. So if you need to kind of have a little breathe, that's great. But I invite you now to place one hand on your heart and one on your belly space, and to close your eyes. And I just want you to listen into your breathing. Try, if you can, to breathe through your nose and slow it down, but not too slow, because I don't want you falling asleep. So maybe a count of 4 in and a count of 4 out, but not too slow. But we just want to, settle the nervous system. feel ourselves in this space now. Okay, and just breathe, and then scan your body. Just take your awareness up to your crown, to the top of your head, and just spiral down nice and gently through the body, the jaw, the neck, through your heart space, through your solar plexus, the sacral, down to your root, down your legs, to your feet. And just scan for anything that might be sticky. And just move it a little bit if you've got sort of a little tension in your neck, with your hips, or in your belly even, that kind of icky feeling. Just scan and feel in. And just bring your awareness to your feet. Feel them firmly on the ground. And just I'd like you to visualize roots coming from your feet, going into the earth, getting nourishment, grounding, strengthening. Those roots are diving in deep, holding us strong. Then visualize your legs and your torso becoming a strong trunk of a tree. And then as you move up, your arms, your shoulders, your head are becoming the branches of this tree. Just imagine them maybe kind of moving in the wind, but feeling strong because they've got good foundation, strong roots, strong core. Make sure you're breathing. And then just imagine all the leaves that are on the branches, they start dispersing. Each leaf symbolizing an energy, an action, an emotion, some physical element. They're going, they're shifting, they're changing, they're no longer needed, and they're falling to the ground. And then just physically go through that body thought again, starting at the top of your head. If you've got any tension around your eyes, your jaw, just wiggle and just feel that release go. Come down to your shoulders and your neck, your belly and your hips. And then feel that strength from our feet, where we're rooted, protected, strong. And then take a nice deep breath. Really deep. And then stretch up. Oh, and release. And then you open your eyes. Rub your hands together. Pick out any unwanted feeling. Okay. So now we're going to come on to our sketchbook, our page, and I'm going to invite you to think about, I'm going to give you some prompts. I've written some prompts down here actually, just to kind of get you started. So I always think it's a really great idea to write what's, I don't know, if something's holding us back, if there's something we're feeling, bringing it out, bringing awareness to it. And by doing that on the page that actually is going to get covered up, is a really healthy thing to do. So I'm going to do some prompts and you can work to those, or you can just write out what you feel needs to be written out, okay, with the kind of bearing the sort of the autumn equinox in mind. And then we'll just do that for a minute, okay? The other thing I forgot to mention is I haven't got any music on this. If you want to put some music on your background, please do. It's kind of a nice thing to do to lose yourself a bit more, come more into the body and less into your head, all right? Okay, so my first prompt really is about what have you been worrying about and coming to the end of the summer. So what's playing on your mind? Is it something that's coming into being? Has it happened? And sort of, have you been, that sort of scattered feeling over the summer? How can that be brought back in? So maybe just write a little bit along those lines. Any worries, doubts, that kind of thinky feeling. So just begin to write. I use a pen. You can use a pencil. You can use anything. You can paint it. And you can do this obviously at your own pace. I've got quite a lot of changes. My son's just started uni, so it was almost that kind of build up to him leaving. It was stressing me out quite a lot. I was really worried about it and worried about him and how things are going to change. And he went last Saturday, and it's kind of like that was like, oh, okay, that feels good. There's a change of energy in the house. And that's sort of taking time to get used to, but he's having a nice time, he's settled, so that's kind of comforting. And now it's just sort of finding that new space. I suppose it's that whole sort of empty nesting for me at my stage. So you'll have other things that are kind of going on in your life. So the next prompt would be about how can you reflect on this. It could be so reflecting on those concerns. What are the opposites? What can you bring in as the positive to that? So one of the things that has been playing on my mind, this is a really boring thing I have to say, is my accounts. And I'm really bad at sitting down and focusing on things like that. So that's what I want to kind of start thinking more joyfully about, is embracing doing those sorts of things, that sort of admin-y side, and of my business, but being grateful that there is a business and that's work that I love doing, and going through again, what do I need? Am I spending in the wrong places? Probably. I think we're all guilty of that. But just sort of coming to it with more kind of positivity rather than dread. So that's what I'm going to write about and to release. I suppose this is the kind of light on the dark, sort of shining that light in. That makes sense. My next prompt will be, what do you want to bring into this new season, this new you? Okay. This could be a moment of gratitude, thinking about what is going to come easily, things that you're not letting go of, things that are good, they're grounding. So maybe about what you're grateful for. That's just a short write-up. If you're doing this on your own for whatever reason, whether that's, manifesting by the moon or other kind of times that you might feel that you want to kind of, get into your sketchbook, into your art journal, you can sort of just do this sort of practice, and there's no hurry. You can do it all in your own time. It can be written like a journal, like a diary, or it can just be words. It could be thoughts, downloads, ideas. But as we kind of move through our pages now, I'm going to ask you to sort of maybe think about what it is that you want to have as an affirmation that you can write out at the end. I have, as I said, got some to give us ideas. But if you've got something you want to, that comes from your heart, that's lovely too, really lovely. Okay. So I'm going to do these pages. I'm going to guide you. Now, when I do my sessions, quite often I really encourage people to do their own thing. So, I do my thing, you do your thing. But what I found is some people find it quite hard. And this isn't about a challenge. It's not about it being hard. What I've found is that it's quite nice just to have something that you're following along to. So if you want to follow along roughly to what I'm doing, because I have a vague idea of what I'm going to do, just because I've been thinking about the session. But if you want to follow along what I'm doing in a fairly ad hoc way, please feel free to do that. Don't feel that you can't do that. On the other flip of the coin, if you want to do your own thing, your own style, your own type of page, that is absolutely cool too. So up to you how you want to work. All right. So I've written out. I'm now going to paint over. So I like to have a kind of intuitive feel to my background. So I'm not kind of really thinking about it. I'm doing sort of a bit abstracty, and I'm going to paint that out. I have on this side done a circle because I'm going to use the tree from my meditation. And I'm going to paint that in. So they're going to sort of come together. And then here I'm going to be writing my affirmations. That's sort of my loose plan at the moment. I tend to use acrylics. I really like to bring in little stamps, little bought stamps, but also I use soft cut, which is like a lino, and I might make my own, I don't know if you can see that, own little stamps. So that's my little seed that I use quite a lot. I have cheated because I kind of knew what I was doing today. So I'm going to use some collage, and I've cut out very, very loosely. They're from music sheets. And the idea of them being leaves, so the leaves falling. So I shall stick those on in a bit. But this will be the chance to put some music on. I'm not, because it doesn't seem to like it when I try and transfer it to the YouTube for replays. So please do, because it is really lovely just to sort of lose yourself. And as I say, sort of come out of your head a bit and just sort of feel into what you're doing. I have got lots of paints because that's what I do. But so don't sort of feel, even if you have like the primary colours and a black and a white, you can make up lots of colours. Okay. So today I'm going to use sort of mixtures of earthy colours and some blues. So I'm going to go kind of quite dark. because we're going into darker months. And I like that. I feel very comfortable with that. I don't see it as like dark and dingy. I feel it's like it's cozy and safe. Okay. So I'm going to have written my page. I have cheated and done my circle. I've used a pair of compasses. Not everyone has those. So you can just use the bottom of, I mean, you could use just the bottom of your water pot, a bowl, plate, anything like that. If you want to do a circle, you might not even want to do a circle. Okay. So I will talk through what I'm doing, and you can do what you want. You can follow or do your own thing, and then we'll meet on the other side, as it were. Okay. So I won't talk all the time because I might irritate you. Okay. So I'm going to start with some earthy colours on my bottom. Just as a sort of technical idea, you can put, which I haven't really got, you can put sort of plastic pages underneath if you're in a sketchbook. It does save the paint going onto the other page. I'm not going to actually bother with that right now. So I'm just putting paint directly onto my page. I'm going to use paler one as well. I've got this lovely darker blue. There are loads of different makes of acrylics, so you can find your, your favourites. At the moment, I'm using quite a lot of this Amsterdam, which is it's quite thick. It's quite sort of opaque covering. Okay, so I've got some colours down, and then I literally, like if I was on my own, I might put some music on. I might kind of be thinking more that I'm going to sort of paint to the music, so sort of feeling into it and paint with the music. Sometimes I like to breathe, so it might be that when I inhale, I draw into that exhale. Sometimes I just need to paint it out. I want some more dark, I think. Use a little tad of black. Strong. Things that I've noticed in my own artwork is that I kind of quite often use a sort of container idea. So I might kind of weight it. So this is quite heavy on the black on the base. And then it will go sort of a bit lighter. You kind of all these creative seeds, I suppose, where you naturally have your own pattern forming, whether that's a sort of a squiggle or a pattern, literally, something that you kind of tend to go towards, that will grow. So it becomes kind of quite unique to you. I'm coming into the top and I'm sort of covering my page at the moment, really. So I'm not thinking too much about it. I've got my circle there and I'm probably going to go into the circle in a minute. Everything is really getting covered up in my writing. Sometimes it's quite nice to leave a little bit peeking through. I use kitchen roll quite a lot to do that merging as well. I really like that. Finish, sort of smoothing it down and blending. But not everyone's cup of tea. Eh? There's a mention we're going to be doing this chakra mandala course starting next week. And I'll do a sort of similar structure to it, but we just really will sort of hone in on each chakra of the basic chakras. And it's interesting to see where you're at with it. You know, they are kind of like little wheels, the sort of energy centers. And if everything is going well, they are moving clearly, but quite often you get one or two or three, maybe all of them that aren't. And when you bring attention to these, it's really quite interesting in how you can help yourself. And doing this creatively is, well, it's relaxing. You're spending that time focusing on each area, but also that creative output. So talking and thinking at the same time and drawing. Okay, I'm going to squidge. So you can see it's sort of like a little bit of the writing's coming through. So I quite like that. I quite like the sort of hiding and sort of peeking through and sort of telling the story that way, or pulling and pushing. I'm just going to pop some white in this bit here. Though it is white, I'm just going to mix a little bit. Wait, clicking at me. And then a little bit of the dark at the bottom. Okay. These aren't about creating. I mean, it's always nice when you're creating to have something that visually you do love, you do like. But it's almost about the kind of the doing of it that is the important. It's where the sort of magic happens. Right, I'm going to get a bit noisy. It's quite handy. I mean, I have it really just because I want to get things dry because we're sort of doing a session and I'm going to try and get this finished. Sometimes I don't get things finished in a session, so it might be that I'll come back to it. I also think it's quite important that when you're, especially when you're kind of painting in the evenings and you're kind of, you're very close to your work. So you're not having time to kind of just have a little bit of reflection whilst you're creating. So sometimes if I'm doing this sort of thing in the evening, I might get to a point where I just think I'm going to stop now because my energy's waning and I just need that space. But then you come down in the morning and then it's light and you're like, oh, okay. And then you kind of can move on. So that's a really nice thing to consider too. I'm going to put this on quite loud, but not as loud as a hairdryer. So this is just one of these craft dryers. So it's quite hot, but less loud, but you can use a hairdryer. Or if you've got more time, you can just let it air dry. I tend to, when I'm doing a double page, I'll show you with these things I've done in the past. I kind of do a double spread where I kind of do my mandala on one side and then I write the affirmation on the other. So I'm going to do a similar thing now. So I use a stencil, but you could do pattern, it could be some spots, you could use packaging like bubble wrap as a kind of template for, not template, actually using it as a stamp. So, or you might not want to do that at all. So, but I'm going to use this stencil here. I chose this one. It's okay, but it sort of reminded me of the kind of like woodland, of trees, very loosely. And I'm going to get some gold. I'm a bit of a magpie, I'm afraid, so I do like gold. And this, I'm using a stencil brush. And I tend to not put too much paint on, and then I sort of massage it in. And I'm holding onto the stencil in various places so it doesn't move whilst I'm doing it. And some areas will become more faint. Some areas will be quite sort of abundant with the paint, depending on where it is. I don't use too much paint, then it doesn't tend to splodge underneath. Splodge being a technical term. Around that circle, but kind of very just using the remnants of what paint's there, so it work a lot. Good. So I'm going to let that dry, and I'm going to now, and I don't tend to, when I'm doing a session, I don't tend to wash my, especially my stencil brushes, because once they're wet, they hold their water for a long time. So I just rub off as much of the paint as I can onto some kitchen roll. And then I can use it later if I want to. Okay. So I'm just going to use the idea of the tree. I'm going to put my glasses so I can see. I'm going to get some black, which I had a minute ago and now it's vanished. Put that on my, I've got a little palette next to me. So you can use like a traditional palette, or you can use a piece of glass. I just use glass and then I tape the sides. You can use paper plate, or you can have a dedicated one for, you know, for your art journaling, just a little saucer or something. Anyway, that's, you know, not really important. Okay, so I am going to use, I've got, what have I got? I'm using some round brushes. This is just a, I don't know what number it is. It says 6, but I think it might be a 9. It's quite a big-ish one, but not massive. And then this is a liner, which is really nice for doing sort of trees, branches, roots, that kind of thing. Sign writers use larger versions of that, sort of long and thin. So I'm going to start by having this sort of imaginary horizon line here. And I'm just going to place, using black, the idea of a trunk here. You can see, and I'm just going to ease the idea of, you know, when you get the roots showing above the earth. So I'm just doing a little bit of that. when you're using a round brush, just a little technical thing, think about the weight, hold it sort of quite close to the actual brush itself. If you're up here, you're losing control. You know, you can't be as exact, but it also is quite good when you are wanting to be more sort of intuitive. So think about that. And if you kind of like, I'll just do it down here. So if you're kind of coming, let's put some paint on it, might help. Just use a little demonstration. So if you're coming down here, if you're using the very tip, can you see? Maybe not, very tip, you get a nice thin line. And if you add a little bit of pressure, a bit of weight, you get a thicker line. And then you come up again, so you're only using the very point. But this is quite a nice technique, especially when you're doing trees and branches. Okay, you get the idea. So you're sort of pressure lifting, quick technical thing there. So wash that. And then I'm just going to sort of imagine I've got, well, I'm not imagining, I'm sort of thinking I'm going to use about sort of 3 branches. It's my main branches. I'm going to come out from the trunk. And coming out like that. And I'm going to come sort of from the top, but just not too literally, just take it slightly to one side maybe. Okay. And then I'm just going to carry on with the idea of the roots. Sorry, I'm stilted when I'm speaking and trying to think. The roots coming up, you know, when you see them sort of slightly above ground. And then when I'm just sort of going to grow my tree, put the branches on, I'm coming from the branch itself. I'm not just taking a stick out, coming from the branch, and then I'm just coming out like that from the branch. And I think my sort of top tip will be not to think too much about it. The more you think about it, the more sort of heady you get, and it's like you can go a bit pear-shaped. That's why it's quite nice having a craft or arty session with a friend, because it's broken up with chit chat and thoughts, and so it's not all too heady. There we go. I'd love to see what you're all doing. Whether you're doing a similar thing or if you've gone off on a tangent. Okay. And then you just kind of carry on going for as long as you think you want to on that. I'm actually going to move down now to my roots. So what I'm doing is I'm building this idea of a mandala with the image, and I'm going to start. So we've got the branches have shedded their leaves, and then the earth has got all the roots coming from the trees, all those different stories, nourishment. And I'm using a nice thin brush for this. Just taking it down to the edge of the circle. You could go on for ages and ages with this, because when you get a potted root ball where it's just like loads and loads and loads, so you could just really go for it. But this is a lovely thing to sort of just relax into, sort of doodling, having to think too much, emptying your mind. Keep taking off the edges. And you just keep growing that. I'm just being aware of time. So I might move on, come back to that later. There's, just give it a bit of a dry. The other thing is just quickly, biffing around, is bringing that sort of strength. So kind of with your tree, just want a nice, strong trunk. Just give it a bit of a dry, so excuse the noise for a sec. Okay. So I mentioned I had sort of pre-prepared some leaves very loosely, very, they haven't been perfectly cut. I've folded up paper. I'm using, as I say, music sheets, just because I like that look. And I'm going to get my, so I use this as a glue. It's called Gloss Medium. It's just not as, if I can open it, not as thick as like a, I mean, you can use obviously a PVA or dry clear PVA. But this is just, I think it's just a bit more fluid. I'm going to put that directly onto the page, like that. That's quite a lot. And I'm just going to get a brush. I'm going to go round. I'm getting exactly the perfect circle, but it's going round the tree. And then I'm going to start placing a leaf randomly around the edge. And if I was sort of just doing this, not within a time scale, if I was just doing this for me, on a sort of an evening or whatever, I might kind of think about these as, oops, let's do that, as those sort of emotions, changes in life, whatever it is that you're thinking. The leaves falling. So I'm using it as a sort of little bit of a border around the edge. Glue. And I'm putting, as I say, the glue on the base, and then I'm going over the top. Put some more here. Let's put my funny dots. Funny little gold foil things. They were in they're all over the house. They were in balloons for my son's birthday. And when they pop or go, all these little gold, I quite like them though, discs fell out of the balloon. So I keep sort of finding little piles of where they were. But then I thought I can keep them, can't I? I can use them as part of my collage. Newspaper. If I have friends going abroad, or if I get, actually I've just been to Greece and I didn't get a newspaper. Yeah, it's quite nice having different fonts and languages that you can use for, imagery. So how am I feeling about this? I'm going to just disperse them a bit more. So I'll probably come back to this. Let's see. Yeah. One more down for now. Okay. A bit of paint, bit of collage. That's what I'm thinking about. My intentions for coming into this new season. Mine is about, I think, a bit more self-care, slowing down, if it's possible. And thinking about what I'm eating a bit more, taking just generally a bit more care, and really kind of getting more sleep, because my head's very busy. So I just need to really kind of just focus on that kind of rest for me. I lots of use doing art journaling and breathing, meditation, yoga, that kind of thing. That's what I enjoy. So yeah, you'll have your own set of intentions. So I said I had some ideas for the affirmations. So I'll read these out and then I'll tell you what I'm going to use. First one is, I can slow down and hear from within. So these are what, you're kind of putting them in the present. I can slow down and hear from within. They quite often say they. It's said that if you slow down, if you use meditation, you can hear your inner guidance. And our lives are busy and we don't, I think, quite often. And when you have those times, when you have those little downloads, those kind of fleeting thoughts, it's like, try and listen into those. I surrender, I let go, I am held. So just letting go, not forcing things, just letting go, surrendering yourself to that, knowing that you're held. It's a belief. I go with the ebbs and flows. I go with the ebbs and flows. We go out, come in, it carries on. I take time to rest and to recharge. I think going into these darker months, we are kind of, that's sort of one of the things I know a lot of my friends have talked about. Really kind of, finding more time to rest, taking care of ourselves. I am gentle with myself during transitions. So I'm thinking along these lines of empty nesting, being kind to yourself and listening, sort of getting used to being who you are, listening in to a quieter life, just being kind, not rushing through and thinking I shouldn't be feeling like this, I don't want to feel like this. Maybe kind of, it's hard, but just going through the transitions gently and knowing that it's not a wrong thing to feel the feels. So what am I going to use? I want to use all of them. I'm going to use all of them. No, I am gentle with myself during transitions, but I'm going to add to it, allowing the ebbs and flows. That's what I'm going to do. So I can't wait to hear what, either you're going to use one of those or you're going to create your own and finding out. Right, so I'm personally going to write this on this page. I'm going to write it. These are great. I've got one that works. These are called Posca pens. They're basically acrylic ink in a pen form. Let's see if it works. So I am gentle with myself during transitions. I go with the ebbs and flows. Have any more affirmations? Okay. So for the now, I've finished my page. If you haven't finished, don't worry, don't feel rushed. You can come back to it or you can carry on now. I would love to see it. So either send them to me or just tag me in Instagram or Facebook or whatever. What I'm just going to ask you to do now is to think of the seeds that you've just planted. Finish the session with a hand on your heart, hand on your belly, and just breathe into all that's been thought about, and to yourself, tell yourself the affirmation you've written, and see that as a seed that places itself in your heart, and it's with you for this next season. Thank you so much for joining me. And as I say, I look forward to seeing your art. And if you do or have enjoyed this session and you fancy doing joining me for the chakra mandalas, which does start on the 2nd of October, there will be replays. I will send an email with the link to join up if you fancy it, and there is a discount code which is going to be up until I think Tuesday when I've written it down, 26th. So Tuesday at midnight, and it is early bird with a capital E, so capital E ARLY, bird with a capital B BIRD CM, chakra mandala, and that'll give you 10% off if you want to join up. Okay, thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you again. Take care. Bye-bye.